Hello, welcome to the program. I'm Gigi Kopelak. Today our guest has something to do with this jewelry. This jewelry that I have on was inherited from my aunts. It was something that they bought in the 40s, and it's made with a product called Bakelite. Bakelite right now is being featured in a show at the Hudson River Museum. It's called Bakelite in Yonkers, Pioneering the Age of Plastics. And I'm very fortunate today to have the great-grandson of the man who invented Bakelite, Hugh Karraker. Did I do it right?
You did.
Okay.
You did.
So thank you so much for being here,
Well,
Hugh.
thank you for calling me and inviting me, because this is a treat.
Well, tell us about your grandfather. Leo was his name.
Leo Hendrik Baekeland was born in Ghent, Belgium, in 1863. And he was a brilliant student, and he got his doctorate at 21 and came over to this country after marrying his professor's daughter, Celine. And
Celine was an artist herself.
Yes,
yeah.
she was a very reputable artist, and showed her works at the Yonkers Museum.
Yeah,
Sure,
yeah.
In fact, there's a painting of hers in the museum.
Well, you know, this is an art show, so I like to stick in there about the art a little
Definitely.
bit. Yeah,
Can't miss that.
Although Leo was really, well, he wasn't the designer of this, but he was the one who invented this first plastic.
He was a chemist. He was a trained chemist, and his first chemistry was photochemistry, which is the time period he invented Velox photo paper, which George Eastman bought up in 1899. And that made Baekeland a very rich man back in the turn of the century. So he established himself in Yonkers, which ties the show in with him being a Yonkers citizen. And he spent time in his laboratory on his property. He turned his old barn into a laboratory.
I think we have a picture of him in the laboratory.
Yeah. That was an old publicity shot for some advertising for his company. By that time, he had formed a company. But he invented Bakelite in 1907, and from 1907 until 1909, he made Bakelite in his own laboratory. And then after that, he bought actually the Germans started making Bakelite in 1909. They were the first manufacturers of Bakelite, the Germans. And there's a lot of German pieces in the collection at the museum. German, Swedish,
So he's working here in Yonkers, and he's developed. He's got the patent on it. And he was a brilliant man. He had 100 patents, I understand, of different things. And he sold the formula to Germany, or did they were the same?
They were already making it. In other words, they were making it, and he had it. He had the patent. So they needed him to get permission to make it. The patents in America seemed to stand up in Europe at that time. So Baekeland said, okay, but you have to be part of my company. So in 1910, he formed the General Bakelite Company, and opened his own plant in Perth Amboy, New Jersey.
And we have a picture of what he produced, basically, the rods. Those rods is in all different colors.
Well, no, they were later Bakelite. They were of the Catalan type Bakelite. So they were the grandson of Bakelite. Yeah.
So Bakelite in the very beginning comes up with this plastic.
And it's all brown and, kind of dull, but it's very functional. It took the place of shellac. He was looking for a substitute for shellac, because the shellac beetle couldn't keep up with the...
beetle.
He was wearing himself out.
Yeah.
But Baekeland was doing research along with other European chemists to find a substitute. And part of the invention of Bakelite was to take that resin and move it a step further and add heat and pressure. And that formed the hard substance, which is known as Bakelite.
And what's fascinating is that you can use it in an engine of a jet plane, or because it became so strong and heat resistant.
It's even on the heat shields for the space shuttles.
It is on the heat shields. That's amazing.
It doesn't burn.
So Bakelite is still being made today. This is something that I thought it was only something. First of all, I thought it was only jewelry.
Yeah, right. Most people think, in this country, associate Bakelite with jewelry.
Right.
And radios, of course.
Yeah, but I don't even know that contemporary young people know about this jewelry, which, you know, my story is I wanted to give my daughter this bracelet, and she said, it's plastic, and then she saw it for $400 somewhere, and she said, all right, I'll take it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so I think, and I really didn't know about all the functional and the amazing things that the original, so we have the first generation and the second generation.
Right.
And I'm fascinated by this piece here.
This is a very functional object, which is no longer being made, but it was the first double-edged razor sharpener. And my grandfather, my mother's father, had something to do with it. And when you pull the string, it moved the blade across the sharpening stones.
Right, right.
So this thing was bought up by Gillette.
And taken out of the market.
Taken out of the market.
Yeah, totally.
So
Leo and his family lived in Yonkers, and
Yes.
and he was one of the first people to have a car in Yonkers.
yeah, one of the early cars. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he got arrested for speeding a couple of times.
Yeah.
God knows, maybe 20 miles an hour in a 30-mile-an-hour zone, or other way around, 30 and a 20.
Yeah. So we're talking about the early 1900s, right?
Yeah.
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 So-
In fact, he took his car. He was a very adventurous guy. He took his car, his wife, and his family, shipped them to Europe, well, himself as well, and with the car drove from Scotland down through England to across the Channel to France, and then down to Italy, Naples, Italy.
His own car. He didn't want to rent it. Well, maybe you couldn't
No.
rent cars in those
There-
days.
in those days, there were no rentals.
Right. You had to
In
get.
fa- Yeah, in fact, you had to buy the gasoline from pharmacists.
Oh,
There were no
that's
gas
so funny.
stations.
Yeah, that's so funny. Well, let's look at some of the other products. We have the blocks. Now, is that first generation? That's
That may be first generation Bakelite.
because that's got color in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's the duller color. The brighter colors are Catalan.
Okay.
And the more colors are able to be made from Catalan, which is the manufacturer, it's not the product. The product is always phenol and formaldehyde,
Okay.
or later phenol melamine formaldehyde, or urea formaldehyde. So that's
It's
as
very
plastics
confusing. It's
developed, yeah.
plastic, which is, I mean, these, you know, we talk about plastic.
Yeah.
Here we have plastic, and
all around us.
but it's the product, it's the chemical that it's made with that makes it different. And when you say Catalan, so it's not Bakelite anymore.
Well, it is Bakelite.
It is
Oh, yeah.
Bakelite.
Yeah.
It is still Bakelite.
It's Bakelite. Don't tell the jewelry dealers it's not, because
Oh,
it
okay.
is. It's made with phenolic resin, phenol alcohol
Okay.
and formaldehyde.
Okay.
And that's what all those plastics are made of. And they're even making them today.
Yeah, but there's more additives in it than just that. Because I was reading at the museum, they have a little bit of the formula, and they put
Right.
cotton.
Catalyst.
They put,
Oh, yeah, they added materials. Yeah, go
yeah,
ahead, sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So yeah,
Wood pulp,
Right.
asbestos,
right.
various materials, natural materials, to make it pliant or stronger, or
Okay.
you know,
Yeah.
like that.
And then even we have this projector. When do you think that was made?
I'm not the collector.
Okay.
We'd have to ask.
We'll talk about the show then. The collector
Yeah,
is.
the collector is Reindert Groot
Okay.
from Amsterdam, and that's why the ABC is the logo of the company. Amsterdam Bakelite Collection.
Oh, okay.
And Reindert, I met him, 2007 in Belgium. And he and I teamed up to bring his collection to this country. And in 2008, we brought it over and showed it in my little hometown of Reading, Connecticut. And then after
Was it the Mark Twain Library?
after 2 months there, we took it to Saginaw, Michigan, of all places. So it was there from November of 2008.
And what, was there a reason?
to
Because
November.
there was a reason that it was Saginaw? Somebody approached you or something?
A friend of Ranjit's
Okay.
knew somebody in a beautiful museum there, and it was a natural fit for this exhibition to be in that museum.
Okay.
And those beautiful cases, which turn-of-the-century jewelry cases, were perfect for it. And it was a beautiful show, as well as the show here is just incredible.
It's incredible because I didn't know about all of these objects and things that were made. And they're so interesting, like the billiard balls.
Yeah.
Yeah. They were made out of, what do they make billiard balls out of now?
Originally they were celluloid,
Okay.
and now they're made out of Bakelite.
They're still made out of Bakelite.
Phenol formaldehyde.
Wow, I see. You know, it's like you know, that old test. You know, where's the red light and the green light? Is it on the top and the bottom? You know, these are things you see every day, and you never think about what is it made of.
Sure.
And all I know is the jewelry. And this is the next one fascinates me. This elephant cigarette holder.
Yeah, I think I saw that for the first time today.
Yeah.
You showed it to me. Yeah, there are 350 objects in the show, and I didn't really focus in on that for a while. But thank you for showing that to me.
No, because you know it's so interesting that he did have the patent on all of these things to make it, but he wasn't the designer. And it's amazing what people came up with to use it for.
Yeah.
And this elephant guy, we still can't figure out what's in his trunk. He's got this holding this. Something
You thought it was maybe the matches.
I thought maybe you could unscrew the sides and put the matches in there.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, that could
and then
work.
you think, well, I don't know because you can't get into the glass
I know.
case.
We'll have to ask. I'll ask Ryder.
Okay, we got to get
I'll
that
get
guy.
you the answer. I'll get you the answer.
And then they also made toys. So we have
a lot
this.
of toys.
Yeah.
We have fire trucks and small tanks, and guns that shoot ping pong balls.
Oh, okay.
Do you see the gun that shoots a ping pong ball?
No, I didn't
That's
see that
very
one.
cute.
Yeah, that's cute. And then we also the toy telephone.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then of course my jewelry. So tell me what it was like when you were a kid and you came up here and you didn't live in Yonkers?
No, I lived in Connecticut all my
Okay.
life, and then my mother, it was my mother's grandfather. So she would bring us up to the house in just off North Broadway on, I think it was Rock Lane or somewhere up in there. And the house was this incredible Victorian thing with a tower and
A turret
old and wood paneling inside. And the laboratory was there. I remember the dusty smell of it. And formaldehyde, you could even actually smell the formaldehyde.
Really? In the house? Or in the barn? Because he had this big barn on the property that he used to come up with it before he moved to Perth Amboy, New Jersey.
Yeah, that was where his laboratory was.
Right. And but your great-grandfather had died, but your great-grandmother was still alive.
Yeah, she had had a stroke before I saw her, met her. So she had, I mean, her reputation lives long after her because she was quite a woman. She started a after-school program for kids in Yonkers called Prospect House. And she and a group of women created this house for kids after school of kids from working parents. And her motto,
like the first daycare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And her motto was bathe them, feed them, and introduce them to the arts.
Oh, that's great.
So she shared her art background with inner city kids.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah. And she also was a part of the suffragette movement. No, not suffragist movement.
Okay.
That's the word.
And she also came from
Belgium.
Belgium. So that's where they had met, and then he came over here in America.
Yeah.
Did he know that to come? Do you know why he would come to America and not stay?
There are theories that say he read a book by Franklin, or about Franklin, Ben Franklin, and he just was taken with the idea of America because Belgium was so rigid at that time and Catholic, very Catholic.
Okay.
You had to do things a certain way, and you couldn't think outside the box. And also, he was expected to be a professor because in those days, in the late 1800s, being an academy, what do they call it?
Academic.
Academic, that's the word.
Right.
Being an academic was, high up in the social standing. But he said, no, I'm going to take a risk. And he came over to America, brought his wife, to his father-in-law's dismay. And he gave up his Belgian roots.
And they moved into New York City.
Yeah.
And he was a chemist, and so he started to come up with these patents.
Yeah, he worked for all kinds of chemical companies as a consultant. Mm-hmm. So he was pretty busy until he started making the Bakelite and the Velux.
The Velux is really where he made his first fortune. It's so interesting, I think, that you hear people that they come up with an idea and then sell it. He must have known he had another idea and he needed the money to back a new idea, I would think, maybe. Yeah. I don't know. I'm not a genius, So
well, he's a chemist, and so he followed his bliss, and he went on from photography to chemicals involving chemicals.
Yeah. So you're descended from the daughter of
Bakeland.
No, okay.
Of the inventor.
Okay.
His daughter
was
Nina, and then her daughter was my mother, Celine.
Okay.
Also named after her grandmother.
Right. Right. Mm-hmm. And then but you're really the one in the family that's really interested in following and bringing and introducing this because you've made a film about it. And
yeah, I've been spending the last 4 years working to celebrate my great-grandfather.
Yeah.
And I've created the Leo Baekeland project, which involves the touring exhibition and a film documentary.
Okay, and where are you getting all the information from? Does your family still have it all? Or?
My mother kept a lot of things. She wrote notes on all 62 of his diaries. He had 62 diaries.
Yeah.
And it's like reading a book. I mean, he just wrote
so he was a great writer, too?
Well, he wrote a lot of information. He was he was thinking about everything. I mean, the World War, using soybeans for food. He was into soybeans.
Well, that's come true, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was involved in the U.S. government, the patent system he helped reform. He was with Thomas Edison on the U.S. Naval Consulting Board, which had something to do with the First World War.
Okay. So he was working with Thomas Edison through this whole thing?
On the committee, and he also knew him.
Okay.
So there was some association, I'm not sure what it was, but two inventors,
Two inventors, yeah. But did your grandfather have a whole staff of people like Edison did? Because Edison, I think, he had so many inventors working for him, didn't he?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so your great-grandfather did also, do you think, or?
Yeah, Bakeland had up to about, I'm not sure, maybe 14 people working with him. Mm-hmm. His first assistant was named Nathaniel Thurlow, and he had worked on this Bakelite formula, but he was a little slow and backward and didn't really have what Bakeland had to really put it together. But
so this information, did you get this information from the diaries? Because certainly, what are the years we're talking about here?
1900 through 1907.
Okay, but then
it took that long to make it. Yeah.
And then he sold the company in 1930 something.
1939, he sold the Bakelite Corporation to Union Carbide.
Okay.
George, his son, was not interested
in
keeping the family in control of the business.
Right.
And Bakeland had had enough of it. He hated the business.
Oh, really?
He was not
He was not a business person.
No, he was very smart as a business person, but he fought it the whole way.
Really?
Not a happy CEO.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he'd rather be off on his boat sailing.
Oh, he had a boat too, huh?
He had a nice motor yacht on the Hudson called the Ion, it was called.
He had two boats, I heard. One,
one early on, and then
the second one.
The second one was really good.
Must have been a nice life in those days, right? If you had this mansion on the water, and you just had the boat, and you had the car, and
and his business was booming.
Sure. It was really interesting. And now there's a company that has found all the old Bakelite plastics. Tell me this. Am I getting it right? Or
there's an artist, designer from Colombia named Jorge Caicedo Monte de Oca is his full title.
Okay.
And he makes Bakelite from vintage Bakelite rods and tubes
This one that I'm wearing here is one of his pins, and but he's making them to look like they're old.
Yeah.
So whereas this is old, this is from the 40s,
Right.
and this is brand new,
Contemporary, yeah.
contemporary.
Yeah.
But the plastic is not brand new.
Right. It's made in the 30s, 40s, even the 50s.
Yeah. And so where was it all this time?
Well, the pieces that he got were in storage in the basement of some plastic, like Canal Plastics or one of those Acme Plastics or one of those companies. And they sold it in auction, and Jorge picked it all up because he
Wow.
was an artist, a designer, a sculptor, and he said, I'm going to make something out of this.
Really?
And
Yeah.
he's made his whole career on it.
So what they do is they take these rods that we saw originally,
Yeah.
and then they grind them down.
Well,
Am I
they,
right?
They cut them like cookies,
Okay.
and then they polish them, carve them. They carve them and shape them.
Oh, so this isn't a mold. These aren't molds.
These are not molded.
These are molded.
No.
No, they're not molded either.
no.
Okay.
But the actual tube is molded. So this comes as a tube. You can see some of the tubes in the exhibition.
Okay.
Yeah, you'll see how the raw Bakelite, you'll see the actual first resin, and then how it's made into a mold, into a rod or a tube, and then you'll see the jewelry as it's cut up.
Okay. So they would make a rod about that looks like this.
That would look like this.
I would take the center out.
Yeah. Oh, and then he cuts this and puts in a hinge.
Okay.
It's brilliant.
No, it's great. I love the fact that it looks so vintage.
Yeah.
It looks like it's old, and yeah. No, it's really interesting. So what else can you tell us about that I haven't covered? Because I'm trying to.
Bakeland, my project is taking me all over the world.
Okay.
Because of the chemists involved and the industrialists, the plastics industrialists. They have meetings. They have the American Chemical Society has meetings. I was just in San Francisco and gave a talk and showed my movie, which is a short movie. It's only about 12 minutes. It'll be out on YouTube, hopefully, eventually.
Yeah.
And then, I also went to Turkey. My wife and I went to Turkey and Germany for celebrations over there about the 100th anniversary.
Would you think that just recently it's become coming back? Because
well,
no,
in my life it has.
In your, well, tell me. I want to say a little bit about your life too, because you've been an actor.
Yes.
For many years, and
yes.
Hopefully people will recognize you and give you autograph. And
No, I never did Broadway or.
Oh no.
No, a couple of small roles on soaps and films and lots of commercials. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
All right.
fun.
So you're very comfortable getting and going on to all these conferences and.
And speaking to the public and glowing and basking in the glow of my great-grandfather's success. Yeah. I always say I'm riding his coattails, and it's been a wonderful trip.
Yeah.
Wonderful
Well, I think
journey.
it's great that you're doing it because I've loved this jewelry, and I'm very glad that it's coming out and people are going to know about it and know about the products, which there's a way to test it to find out that it's Bakelite.
If you have an object and you're trying to figure out whether it's Bakelite or not,
right.
You rub it and warm it up and then smell it. You can smell the formaldehyde. You have to rub it.
Yeah.
Or put it under warm water.
Put it under hot water.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I have a couple of things around my house that I'm not sure what it is, and I'm going to dunk everything in hot water
There you go.
find out.
And if it smells like your biology lab, then it's Bakelite.
Yeah. So we just have a minute or two left, and it goes very fast.
Yeah.
I know, and so I thank you so much, and I hope that everybody gets to the museum to see Pioneering the Age of Plastics, because it also shows a little bit of a chronology of the first plastic up to, well, not really the present. What is the present plastic? I don't know.
They make Bakelite. They still make it.
Yeah,
So there's a
still
toilet
making?
seat there, a beautiful toilet seat from
Beautiful.
Denmark.
Yeah.
And then the Bakelite
So would you say it's
jewelry.
bigger in Europe than it is here because of that German company?
The functional Bakelite is bigger in Europe.
Okay.
Here it's used for, automobile parts, things
Mm-hmm.
like that, are still being made from Bakelite. But here it's all the jewelry, the radios, the flashy stuff, the colorful
The flashy stuff, yeah.
In Europe, it's more practical. They're more practical about it,
Okay.
it seems.
Okay.
And
And the show will be there at the Hudson River Museum until June 6th.
Yeah.
Okay, and I think there'll be some talks, like I think you'll get on the website and look up when they're having some talks about it, right? When
Yeah,
the
maybe.
curator is going to be
Yeah,
doing
the
some things.
curators are there, the docents are there. I've
Yeah.
trained some docents. Hopefully they've absorbed some of this stuff because it's a lot to learn.
It's a lot, yeah.
But it's a wonderful show, and I'm really happy with it. And I hope we the next step is going to be the Smithsonian.
Okay,
I'm working on that.
that would be great.
I know.
Okay. And we have to thank Groot.
Reindert Groot. Yeah.
What's his name?
Reindert Groot. Reindert.
Oh, Groot is his last name.
Yeah, Reindert is his first name.
Reindert. I'm calling him the opposite. I'm calling him Groot Reindert, but no. Okay. Because this is his collection
Yes.
that they have there.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you don't have that many pieces.
No, I don't collect it. I'm not
Yeah.
a collector.
Yeah, but your wife has the jewelry.
She does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Hugh. It's been a pleasure.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it.
Thank you. My pleasure too, Gigi.
And thank you for watching.